So I'm Tianyu from Aalto University. So now I'd like to present our recent submission, improving neural networks for genotype phenotype predictions using published summary statistics. So this is a joint work with Khaoula, Aki, Pekka, and Kaski. So if you are interested in the full paper, you could scan the QR code on the corner to access the link. Okay, so in this paper, we deal with a specific application in genetics, which is genotype phenotype prediction. So in case that probably you don't have the genetics background, I will introduce some terminology here. So first, a genotype is a typical genetic mutation, which is also called SNPs. SNPs can only take values from 0, 1, and 2. And in practice, SNPs can be potentially very high dimensional. So for example, it's very easy to have like tens of millions of SNPs in your dataset. The phenotype is the trait of interest that we want to predict. For example, it could be the color of eyes, the body mass index, the cholesterol levels in your blood, or something like that. And the task is to predict a phenotype using a genotype. So we can consider this as a classical supervised learning problem where the features are the genotype and the prediction target is the phenotype. This prediction problem is a key component in many genetics applications. For example, we could generate this polygenetic risk score for specific disease. We could also try to find the interaction effects between two genes to recover the mechanism of a certain disease. Also, in bacterial genetics, we could predict the antibiotic resistance for like a new bacteria given the genome information or something like that. So, so what's the problem? The problem is if we want to use a neural network to predict the phenotype with a genotype, we need a large individual level data to train the model. However, in practice, the individual level data of a specific cohort that we want to predict might be very small because probably the whole population of the cohort is very small, then we cannot have a large individual level data. Even the population is high, data sharing can be difficult due to some privacy consideration. And this is especially a problem for human genetics. But fortunately, in this field, researchers often make the GWAS summary statistics of the same trait, but on probably a different cohort publicly available. So the GWAS summary statistics are just the coefficient of multiple univariate linear regression, where for each model, we just use one SNP to predict the phenotype. And then we report the coefficient and also, for example, the P statistics and the P values. For example, here is the GWAS result of 5 SNPs on the HDL phenotype. And we know the coefficient, the standard error, and T statistics and P values of each univariate linear regression. Okay, so the goal for this project is to improve neural network predictions on some small data set by using the publicly available GWAS summary statistics, probably from a different cohort. So here is an overview about the whole setup. So so we have a target cohort, which is a very small data set, but we can access the individual level data. And we want to train a machine learning model on the training set Then we tested the machine learning model on the independent test set from the target cohort, which is like a standard supervised learning problem. But here we assume that we have another external cohort, which is very large, but we cannot access the individual level data due to some privacy consideration. But fortunately, we could access the GWAS summary statistics from the researchers who can access the individual level data. The contribution of this work is we developed a novel main effects prior regularization to make use of the publicly available summary statistics into the model training, so that the model can use information from both target cohort and the external cohort. So even when the target cohort only contains a very small set of the data, we can still get some sensible prediction performance on the test set. The method is actually pretty straightforward. So literally main effects prior is a prior on the main effects. So for a machine learning model, for example, a neural network, the joint main effects of features is defined by the projection of the neural network prediction on the feature space. So we could consider this by fitting a multivariate linear regression to predict the neural network prediction. And then we report the coefficient of the multivariate linear regression. We assume that we have a prior joint main effect and the corresponding standard deviation derived from some publicly available GWAS summary statistics databases. Then we define the main effects prior to be just the L1 distance between the model joint main effects and the prior joint main effects, weighted by the position of the prior. And the position is just the inverse standard deviation in the prior. So to use this main effects prior, we just consider this as a new realization, and we put the realization into the cost function of training a neural network. And now we have an additional hyperparameter to cross-validate, which controls the strength of the main effects prior. In the paper, we did some experiments on simulation dataset, real-world dataset, including homogeneous and heterogeneous dataset. But here, I only show the results on the heterogeneous dataset. So the setup is the target cohort is actually a Finnish dataset where we only have less than 4,000 individuals. But fortunately, we can access the individual level data. We assume we also can actually access external cohort, which is a British cohort from the UK Biobank with more than 100,000 individuals. However, we assume we cannot access the individual level data, but only the GWAS summary statistics. So in this table, we show the prediction on 6 different phenotypes, for this 6 different columns. And for each row, we show a different machine learning methods that are commonly used in this setup. Those numbers are the R square or the PVE on the test set. So basically, the higher the better. We show the performance of those machine learning methods with the main effects prior estimated from the external cohort. So basically, we can see that using the main effects prior from the external cohort can actually improve all those machine learning models. Okay, so here's the summary. So basically, we propose many effects prior to make use of the publicly available GWAS summary statistics to improve machine learning model on a small data setting. And this is for the phenotype genotype, and this is for the genotype phenotype prediction task. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks for the attention, and I'm open for questions.